Ready for a real mind bender today? We're going deep on this essay by Dario Amodei about living in a world with powerful AI.
Yeah, and it's a nice change of pace.
Mm.
Usually it's all doom and gloom with this stuff, but Amodei is like, hey, this could actually be amazing.
Right, like he's the CEO of Anthropic, an AI safety company. So, they're thinking about the risks, but he's also saying those risks are worth tackling because the upside is so huge.
Totally. And I think that's what makes this deep dive so important because it's not just about fear mongering. It's about like, what are we actually aiming for?
It's about hope.
Right, exactly.
Mhm.
And what I appreciate is that Amodei is not shying away from the big questions. He's diving right into what this powerful AI actually looks like.
Yeah, he even avoids using the term AGI, which I thought was interesting. It's like everyone throws that term around, but what does it even mean?
It does get thrown around a lot.
Yeah.
And honestly, it can sound kind of sci-fi-ish. Amodei grounds it by talking about this AI as like having a country of geniuses in a data center.
Okay, now that's a visual, but what does that actually mean? Like, what can these geniuses actually do?
So think Nobel Prize level intelligence, but across pretty much every field.
Hmm.
We're talking about an AI that can not only process information like crazy, but also design experiments, write code, even like draft a screenplay, basically anything a human can do through a digital interface.
Wow, that's a lot. And with that kind of power, it's like, why haven't we heard more of this optimistic view from Anthropic before?
It's a good question, and Amodei actually addresses that in the essay. He talks about how they've been hesitant to like overpromise or come across as these like utopian tech bros.
Yeah, no one wants to be that guy.
Exactly. Plus, there's a real danger in claiming too much too soon.
Right.
People hear about AI solving all the world's problems, and then when it doesn't happen instantly, they get disillusioned.
It's like, oh, AI was supposed to cure cancer by now. I guess it was all hype.
Right. So Anthropic's focus has been on the things they can influence, like making sure AI is developed safely. But now I think they're ready to talk about what we're actually striving for, not just what we're trying to avoid.
I like that. It's like, okay, we got to talk about the risks, got to build those safety rails, but we also got to have a vision for where we want to go.
Exactly. It's not just about preventing the worst-case scenarios. It's about actively creating a better future. And Ambode is not just talking about incremental improvements here. He believes that powerful AI could lead to truly radical transformations in how we live, work, even understand ourselves.
Okay, now you've got my attention.
We're talking about things like eradicating poverty, curing diseases that have plagued humanity for centuries, even unlocking deeper levels of consciousness. But he's also realistic about the challenges. He talks about this idea of marginal returns to intelligence, which I think is a crucial concept to understand.
Yeah, that one threw me for a loop at first. Break it down for me.
Sure. Basically, it means that just because an AI is super intelligent doesn't mean it can magically solve every problem instantly.
You give me an example.
So, like, imagine you ask this powerful AI to write you a best-selling novel. Even with all its intelligence, it's still limited by the data it's been trained on. It might be able to mimic writing styles and predict popular themes, but can it truly capture the essence of what makes a story resonate with human readers?
Right. You can't just program in things like emotions and experiences.
Exactly. And that's where Amodei gets really interesting. He argues that factors like data availability, the speed of scientific experiments, even the complexities of human behavior, these all play a role in shaping how AI impacts the world.
It's not just about building a smarter AI. It's about understanding the messy realities of the world we live in.
Exactly. And that's what makes Amodei's vision so compelling. He's not afraid to acknowledge the hard problems, the areas where even a superintelligence will need to tread carefully.
Right. It's not about handing over the reins to the machines. It's about figuring out how to use these powerful tools responsibly to build the future we want. But speaking of powerful tools, I'm ready to get into the specifics. Amodei identifies 5 key areas where he believes this powerful AI could lead to some seriously radical transformations. Where do you want to start?
Let's jump into it with Amodei's first area, biology and health. He thinks powerful AI could give us like 50 to 100 years worth of progress in just a decade.
A decade. That's like saying we could have cures for cancer, Alzheimer's, all in the next 10 years.
That's the idea. And Amodei's argument is that biology is kind of stuck in slow motion right now because experiments take forever, the data is messy, and biological systems are just, well, really complicated.
It's like trying to solve a puzzle, but the pieces keep changing, right?
Exactly. But Amodei says AI can totally flip the script. Imagine an army of virtual biologists, each one analyzing data, designing experiments at warp speed.
So it's not that AI replaces scientists, it's more like AI becomes the ultimate research assistant.
Right. Like picture this. AI digging through mountains of genetic data, finding those tiny patterns and connections that would take human researchers years to uncover.
Especially with something like cancer, where there's so much going on genetically and environmentally, that speed could be a game changer.
No kidding. Amodei actually predicts a 95% or greater reduction in both cancer deaths and new cases, basically turning cancer into something manageable instead of a death sentence.
95%. I mean, that's amazing, but how?
Well, he talks about AI doing everything from super early detection to personalized treatments, maybe even figuring out how to prevent cancer from happening in the first
Okay,
place.
now you're talking. Not just treating cancer, but stopping it before it starts. That's a whole different ballgame.
It really is. It's like, instead of just treating the symptoms, we could actually reprogram our biology to heal itself.
Wow. So we're talking about living longer, but what about living better? Can AI help with that?
That's another area where Amodei is optimistic. He sees AI helping us create personalized diets and exercise plans, developing those smart drugs everyone's talking about, maybe even advanced prosthetics that work seamlessly with our bodies.
So basically, AI becomes like this personalized wellness coach, helping us optimize our minds and bodies, maybe even slowing down aging.
Yeah, he even suggests that AI could help double the human lifespan.
Okay, come on. Living to 150, that's gotta be science fiction.
I know it sounds wild, right?
And I
But think about it. Just in the last century, human lifespan has almost doubled already, mostly because of things like better sanitation, nutrition, and medicine.
True, true. And a lot of things we take for granted now, organ transplants, vaccines, would have blown people's minds 100 years ago. Who knows what the future holds? But as much as I love talking about living forever, what about our minds? What does Amodei say about AI and neuroscience? So we've talked about AI transforming our bodies, but what about our minds? It feels like we're getting into some really deep philosophical territory here.
Yeah, this is where things get really interesting. Amodei thinks AI could completely revolutionize how we understand the brain. Like we could see breakthroughs in mental health, cognitive enhancement, maybe even figure out what consciousness is.
It's like using AI to unlock the secrets of the most complex thing we know of, the human brain. But where do we even start?
Well, Amodei has this fascinating idea. He thinks the stuff we're developing to understand AI, like this concept of interpretability, could be the key to understanding our own minds.
Okay, hold on. Interpretability, you're going to have to break that one down for me.
Sure, sure. So right now, even the most advanced AI is kind of like a black box, right?
Yeah.
We see what it does, but we don't really know how it gets there. Interpretability is about making AI more transparent so we can understand its reasoning.
So it's like taking apart a complex machine to figure out how all the gears and cogs work together.
Exactly. And Amodei thinks we can apply those same principles to the brain. Like, imagine using AI to understand how thoughts, emotions, even consciousness emerge from all those neurons firing away in our heads.
Mind-blowing. It's like AI is holding up a mirror to help us understand what it means to be human. But what about the practical stuff? Can AI actually help us treat mental illness or make us smarter?
Amodei is cautiously optimistic about that. He sees a future where we have AI-powered therapies for things like depression, anxiety, maybe even addiction. And these treatments would be personalized, tailored to your specific brain and experiences.
No more one-size-fits-all approaches to mental health. Sign me up.
Right. And he even talks about totally new forms of therapy, like imagine having an AI therapist or a meditation app that adapts to your emotions in real time.
It's like having a personal therapist and a meditation guru all in one. But what about those of us who just want to be a little sharper, more focused? Can AI help with that too?
Amodei thinks so. He sees AI playing a big role in cognitive enhancement. Things like improving focus, boosting memory, maybe even unlocking new levels of creativity.
So like imagine being able to learn faster, remember more, make connections you never would have seen before. That sounds pretty amazing, but wouldn't that give some people an unfair advantage? What about those who can't afford these AI brain boosts?
That's a huge concern, and Amodei acknowledges that. He emphasized how important it is to make sure everyone has access to these technologies, that they're used to benefit everyone, not just a select few.
That's good to hear. It's like, yeah, this technology is powerful, but we need to use it responsibly. Speaking of responsibility, let's talk about Amodei's next big area, economic development and poverty. How can AI impact something as complex as the global economy?
Amodei is pretty clear that technology alone can't solve everything. But he does think AI, if we develop it ethically, could be a huge driver of economic growth, especially in developing countries.
So we're not just talking about automating jobs out of existence, we're talking about creating new opportunities, new industries.
Exactly. Like, think about the internet. Nobody could have predicted how it would change the world, right? New jobs, new industries popping up that we couldn't have even imagined.
It's like back in the day, who would have thought you could make a living being a YouTuber or an Instagram influencer?
Right, and Amodei thinks AI could be even bigger,
Yep.
completely changing how we make things, provide services, even how we define work itself.
It's exciting to think about, but also a little scary, right? Like, we're on the edge of something huge, something that could change everything.
Totally. And that leads us to Amodei's last area, maybe the most challenging one: peace and governance. How do we make sure powerful AI is used for good, for cooperation, not for conflict?
It feels like every day there's a new headline about AI being used for autonomous weapons or to spread misinformation. It's hard not to be a little freaked out.
I get it, and Amodei gets it too. He's very clear that AI isn't some magic solution for world peace. In fact, he warns that if we're not careful, AI could actually make conflicts worse.
So how do we make sure that doesn't happen? How do we make sure AI is used to create a better world, not a more dangerous one?
He talks about a two-part approach. First, we have to make sure AI is developed ethically, with human well-being and global cooperation as top priorities. That means working together internationally, setting clear rules for AI research, and making sure we're addressing things like bias head-on.
So it's about building those ethical guardrails into AI from the ground up, not just trying to rein it in after it's already out there.
Exactly. And the second part is using AI to actually strengthen things like democracy and transparency. He talks about AI monitoring elections for fraud, fighting fake news, basically giving people the information they need to make good decisions.
It's like instead of AI being used to manipulate us, it can be used to empower us, to make us more informed, more engaged, and hopefully more peaceful.
Right. And that's really the heart of Amodei's message. The future of AI isn't some predetermined thing. It's up to us to decide how this technology gets used, whether it leads to a more just, equitable, and fulfilling future for everyone.
It's a powerful reminder that even in this age of crazy advanced tech, we're still in the driver's seat. We get to choose how we use these tools and whether we use them to solve our biggest challenges or make them worse.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, that wraps up our deep dive into Dario Amodei's essay. We covered a lot of ground, from AI revolutionizing healthcare to the possibility of a more peaceful future. A lot to think about, right?
Definitely.
Hopefully our listeners are walking away with some of that cautious optimism that Amodei talks about. The future isn't something to be afraid of, it's something we get to create.
Hear, hear.
That's it for this week's deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking those tough questions, and keep believing in the power of human ingenuity to build a better tomorrow.